I always knew my brother would try to ruin my dreams, but I never thought he'd be so blatant about it. Maybe that's a sign. The smirk on Mason's face as he strolled past my bedroom made my blood run cold. I flipped through my travel folder for the third time, panic rising with each empty page. My passport was gone. It had been right here, tucked safely in the front pocket next to my acceptance letter for the Global Policy Program in Rome, a full scholarship I'd earned against all odds. Less than 48 hours before my flight, and the most important document of my life had vanished. I'm Callie 20, the family underachiever by their standards. I don't drink, I don't party, and I definitely don't play second fiddle to my younger brother Mason, the golden child, who somehow convinces everyone he's the star of our family's show. "Mom," I yelled, trying to keep my voice steady. "Have you seen my passport?" "Honey, you probably misplaced it," Mom called back from the kitchen, her voice dripping with that familiar dismissive tone. "You know how scattered you get when you're stressed?" I caught a glimpse of Mason leaning against my doorframe, arms crossed, his perfect blonde hair falling just so over his smug face. He smirked, toying with a set of car keys. "Maybe it's a sign, Callie. Not everyone's cut out for international travel." I felt my fists clench. My acceptance letter sat on the edge of my desk, a stark reminder of everything I'd worked for, a reminder of everything Mason had tried to undermine. He'd nearly sabotaged my science fair project in high school, and just last year he'd let our parents believe my volunteer trip to Guatemala was some kind of vacation instead of the intense humanitarian work it actually was. "I earned this," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. I yanked open my desk drawer, rifling through papers. "I'm going. If you say so," he said, pushing off the door frame. "Just don't expect me to come rescue you when it all goes sideways." I shot him a glare as he disappeared down the hall. My heart pounded in my chest as I pulled my desk drawers open one by one. Textbooks, notebooks, half-used journals, but no passport. "Callie, dinner's ready," Mom called again, as if that settled everything. I slammed the drawer shut and took a deep breath, forcing myself to think. Mason had a history of petty sabotage, but this felt different. This felt calculated. I remembered the night before when he'd come into my room unannounced, leaning against my desk as he asked if I was really ready to live halfway across the world. He'd played with my desk lamp, flipping it on and off absent-mindedly as I assured him that yes, I was ready. Now that I thought about it, he'd been standing right next to my travel folder. I grabbed my phone and fired off a message to my best friend Erin. "Me emergency. Passport missing. I think Mason's behind it." Her response came back almost immediately. "Erin, that little snake, want me to come over?" "Me not yet. I'm going to try and handle this myself." I closed my eyes, forcing myself to stay calm. I'd triple-checked my passport just yesterday. It had to be here somewhere. Maybe Mason had just hidden it as some kind of twisted power play. I scanned my room, looking for any sign of recent disturbance, any clue that might lead me to my missing passport. Then I saw it. The corner of a small blue booklet peeking out from behind my bookshelf. My heart leapt as I rushed over, pulling it free. But as I flipped it open, my heart sank. It was my old passport, the one that had expired last year. Useless. Footsteps echoed up the stairs, and a moment later my dad appeared in my doorway, his face already set in that familiar weary expression. "Family meeting. Now." My stomach dropped. I followed him downstairs where Mason was already lounging on the couch, phone in hand, a self-satisfied grin stretching across his face. Mom stood by the kitchen counter, arms crossed her face, a careful mask of concern. "Callie," Dad started settling into his usual seat. "We need to talk about this Rome trip." I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm as I took the only empty chair. I knew what was coming, and I needed to be ready. "We're just worried," Mom said, twisting the cross necklace she always wore. "You're so young and this is such a big step. Maybe this passport situation is a sign that you should reconsider." Mason snorted, his eyes never leaving his phone. I could feel the trap closing around me. "I'm going," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "I earned this." Dad sighed, glancing at Mom. "It's not just about earning it, Callie. It's about being realistic." I clenched my fists under the table. This was exactly what they wanted, to break my confidence, to make me second-guess myself. "You'll get another chance," Mom added, her voice dripping with condescension. But maybe this time focus on something more practical. I stood my chair scraping against the tile floor. You don't get to decide my future. I do. Without another word, I turned and marched back up the stairs, my heart pounding with a mix of anger and fear. Back in my room, I closed the door and leaned against it, letting out a shaky breath. I grabbed my phone again. Me plan B. I'm getting on that plane with or without my passport. Aaron, I've got your back, whatever it takes. I stared at the message, a small smile creeping onto my face. Maybe Mason thought he'd cornered me, but he had no idea who he was dealing with. I was done playing the overlooked, underestimated daughter. Tomorrow, the tables would turn. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced with possibilities, each one darker than the last. Mason's smug grin haunted me, taunting me in the shadows of my room. He'd been trying to undermine me for years, but this felt different, more calculated, more personal. He wasn't just messing with my plans. He was trying to break me. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache, my phone buzzing on the nightstand. It was Erin. Hey, she said as soon as I answered. Any luck finding it? No? I whispered, glancing at my door to make sure it was still closed. It's gone. I checked everywhere. Mason's definitely behind this. You think he took it? I know he did. So what's the plan? She asked, her voice dropping into a conspiratorial tone. Want me to sneak in and help you search his room? I almost laughed. Erin had always been the one to suggest the boldest moves, the kind that made my heart race just thinking about them. But as tempting as it was to storm into Mason's perfectly curated space and tear it apart, I knew I had to play this smart. Not yet, I said, forcing myself to stay calm. I need to get through today without tipping him off. He's probably waiting for me to lose it. All right, Erin said, her voice sharpening. But if you need me, I'm just a text away. Thanks, I whispered, a lump forming in my throat. It felt good to know I wasn't completely alone in this. As I got dressed, I ran through the past few days in my mind, trying to pinpoint exactly when my passport could have gone missing. It had to be Mason. I thought back to last weekend when he'd offered to drive me to the store. He'd made some snide remark about my overstuffed backpack, reaching over to grab it from the back seat before I could protest. I'd brushed it off at the time, too distracted by the stack of travel guides I'd been thumbing through, but now it felt like a red flag I'd missed. Downstairs, I found Mason in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, casually scrolling through his phone. He didn't look up as I poured myself a cup of coffee, but I felt his eyes on me as I crossed the room. Morning? He said, his tone light, almost mocking. Sleep well? I forced a tight smile. Like a baby. Good, he said, his eyes flicking up to meet mine for just a second before returning to his screen. You're going to need all the energy you can get for your big trip. I bit back the urge to snap at him. Instead, I took a slow sip of my coffee, letting the bitter taste ground me. He wanted a reaction, wanted me to crack, and I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. Thanks, I said, my voice cool. I'll keep that in mind. I grabbed my backpack and headed for the door, my heart pounding. As I stepped onto the porch, I felt a chill run down my spine. Mason had always been a jerk, but this was different. He was enjoying this too much. I spent the rest of the morning at the library, trying to distract myself with travel blogs and Italian phrase books, but my mind kept drifting back to my missing passport. I felt trapped, like I was already losing a game I hadn't agreed to play. Around noon, my phone buzzed again. It was Erin. Erin, are you at the library? I'm coming over. We need to talk. I felt a surge of relief. Erin had a way of making even the worst situations feel manageable. 10 minutes later, she slid into the seat across from me, her curly hair pulled back into a messy bun, a determined look on her face. All right, she said, leaning in. Tell me everything. I laid it all out, the missing passport, Mason's suspicious behavior, my parents' sudden doubts. She listened quietly, her eyes narrowing as I spoke. He's trying to break you, she said when I finished, her voice low and fierce. He wants you to crack so he can swoop in and be the hero, the one who rescued his poor scatterbrained sister. I felt a chill run down my spine. She was right. Mason had always thrived on being the center of attention, the golden boy who could do no wrong. If he could make me doubt myself, if he could sabotage my future, it would only cement his place as the family favorite. So what do? I whispered, my heart pounding. You don't let him win, Erin said, her eyes blazing. You don't let him take this from you. We'll find that passport and we'll make sure he regrets ever messing with you. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't as alone in this as I'd thought. As we left the library, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the glass door, eyes sharp, jaw set, shoulders squared. I looked like a different person, someone ready for a fight. And maybe I was. Mason had started this, but I was going to finish it. By the time I got back home that evening, the house felt different, like it was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. I crept up the stairs, my ears straining for any hint of movement. Mason's door was shut, a thin line of light spilling from the crack at the bottom. I could hear the faint click of his gaming keyboard, the muffled sound of his online friends laughing through his headset. I shut my bedroom door quietly and leaned against it, my mind racing. If I was going to outsmart Mason, I needed to think like him. I needed to be as sneaky, as underhanded, and as relentless as he was. I flipped on my desk lamp and pulled my laptop from my backpack. It was time to play my part to let Mason think he had me exactly where he wanted. First, I logged into my email and pulled up the message from the Global Policy Program, the one with my flight details and welcome packet. I printed it out, letting the pages spill onto my desk in a chaotic mess. Next, I scattered a few travel books and half-filled notebooks across my bed, making it look like I'd been too stressed to keep my room organized. Then I cracked my door open just a bit, angling it perfectly so Mason could catch a glimpse of the mess if he happened to pass by. I needed him to believe I was on the verge of breaking, that I was spiraling into chaos and doubt. My phone buzzed, and I nearly jumped out of my chair. It was Erin. Erin, you good? Any updates? Me, I have a plan. Just need you to play along. Erin always. Tell me what you need. I smiled, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I typed my instructions. If Mason wanted to play games, I'd show him I knew the rules too. I leaned back in my chair, the first real wave of calm I'd felt in days washing over me. This was going to work. It had to. I'd let Mason think he was winning, let him believe he had me cornered, and then I'd turn the tables so hard he wouldn't know what hit him. Around 9 p.m., I heard footsteps on the stairs. I tensed, my heart racing as I watched the shadow under my door stretch and shift. The footsteps paused outside my room for just a second, then moved on. I let out a slow, shaky breath. He was watching me, trying to gauge my next move. Perfect. I opened a new browser tab and started researching backup passport options. It would cost me a small fortune, but if Mason had really taken my passport, it might be my only shot. I bookmarked the page, knowing I'd need to act fast if I wanted to pull this off. The next morning, I left my room deliberately late, my hair a mess, my clothes rumpled, a mug of cold coffee in my hand. I shuffled into the kitchen, letting my shoulders slump, my eyes heavy with fake exhaustion. Mason was already at the counter, scrolling through his phone, a smug smile on his face. He barely looked up as I poured myself a second cup of coffee, letting the liquid splash messily into the cup. Rough night? He asked, his tone dripping with faux concern. I forced a tired laugh. You have no idea. I caught the flicker of satisfaction in his eyes, the tiny spark of victory. He thought he had me right where he wanted. You know? He said, leaning against the counter. Maybe it's not too late to change your mind about Rome. Stay local, take some online classes, play it safe. I met his gaze, forcing myself to hold his stare, my fingers tightening around the coffee cup. I'll think about it, I said, letting just enough hesitation creep into my voice. He smirked, pushing off the counter. Probably for the best. Wouldn't want you stranded in a foreign country all alone. I bit the inside of my cheek, forcing my face into a weak, uncertain smile. Yeah, thanks. He strolled out of the kitchen, his footsteps echoing down the hallway, and I felt my resolve harden. He had no idea what was coming. I texted Erin as soon as he was out of earshot. Me, it's working. He's getting cocky. Erin, good. Keep it up. Me, oh, I plan to. As I sipped my coffee, I allowed myself a small, satisfied grin. This was just the beginning. If Mason thought he could outsmart me, he was in for a brutal reality check. The days blurred together as my departure date loomed closer. I kept up the act, shuffling around the house like a ghost, avoiding eye contact, letting my parents think I was quietly unraveling. It was exhausting, but it had to be convincing. I needed Mason to drop his guard completely. Aaron had been a godsend, checking in constantly, helping me rehearse my lines, making sure I didn't crack under the pressure. We had a plan, a tight, almost military operation that required perfect timing. One wrong move, one misplaced word, and the whole thing would collapse. I spent hours in my room perfecting my cover story, scattering old notebooks, stacking travel guides, and deliberately misplacing things to make it look like I was losing control. I even took to leaving my bedroom door slightly ajar, letting Mason catch glimpses of me pacing, muttering to myself, fingers flying over my laptop keyboard. Finally, the night before my supposed departure, I made my move. After dinner, I retreated to my room and carefully closed the door. I took a deep breath, steadied my shaking hands, and dialed Aaron. "You ready?" she whispered as soon as she picked up. "Yeah," I replied, my voice low. "Let's do this." I put her on speaker and set my phone on my desk, angling it just right. Then I started talking just loud enough for the sound to carry through my thin bedroom walls. "Aaron, I found my passport," I said, letting my voice shake just a little, adding a note of forced relief. "Finally," Aaron replied, matching my fake enthusiasm perfectly. "Where was it?" "In the bottom of my old hiking bag," I said, pacing back and forth for effect. I must have shoved it in there after my last trip and totally forgotten about it. I paused, letting the silence stretch for just a second, giving Mason time to press his ear against the wall. I knew he was listening. "But there's a problem," I added, dropping my voice into a nervous whisper. "I just got an email from the embassy. They flagged my passport as lost, so it's been deactivated." "What?" Erin gasped, playing her part beautifully. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," I replied, my heart pounding. "They said I can't use it for international travel. I have to apply for a new one, which will take weeks." I heard a faint creak from the hallway, the sound of someone shifting their weight on the old hardwood floor. "Mason." I smiled to myself, fighting the urge to glance at the door. "So what are you going to do?" Erin pressed her tone perfectly pitched to sound both concerned and curious. "I don't know," I said, letting my voice crack just a little. "I guess I'm screwed. I can't tell my parents. They'll never let me live this down. And I can't miss this flight. If I don't show up for orientation, they might rescind my scholarship." "That's rough," Erin said, lowering her voice. "But hey, we'll figure something out. Maybe there's a way around it." "Maybe," I whispered, letting my voice drop to a near whisper. I don't know what to do." I ended the call and slumped back into my chair, letting my head fall into my hands, putting on the best performance of my life. I even forced out a few shaky breaths, making it sound like I was on the verge of tears. Then for good measure, I slammed my laptop shut, letting the sound echo through the quiet house. I sat there in the dark for a long moment, letting the tension hang in the air, imagining Mason's smug grin on the other side of the wall, picturing the wheels turning in his mind as he calculated his next move. Good, let him think he'd won. The next morning, I woke up early, adrenaline thrumming through my veins. I dressed quickly, shoving a few essentials into my backpack deliberately, leaving my bedroom a chaotic mess. I needed to sell the illusion of a last-minute panic. As I reached for my door handle, I heard voices drifting up from the kitchen. Mason and my parents, their voices low and serious. I crept halfway down the stairs, staying just out of sight. "I'm just saying," Mason was saying, his tone dripping with fake concern. "Maybe it's better if Callie stays home. She's clearly not ready for this. She's a mess." "I don't know," Dad replied, his voice heavy with doubt. "She's been acting strange, but this scholarship is a big deal." "Exactly," Mason pressed, his voice rising slightly. "You don't want her embarrassing herself on the world stage, do you? What if she screws up? What if she has another one of her breakdowns?" I bit down on my tongue, forcing myself to stay quiet, to stay hidden, to let the trap spring shut around him. "He might be right," Mom added, her voice laced with worry. "Maybe we should sit her down and talk to her, make her see reason before it's too late." "I'm just looking out for her," Mason said, his tone so smooth, so convincing that I almost believed him. I backed away from the stairs, my heart racing. I had him right where I wanted. I spent the rest of the day acting like a trapped animal, pacing my room, muttering under my breath, slamming drawers, and shuffling papers around. I wanted Mason to think I was coming undone, that his plan had worked, that I was spiraling into chaos. It was exhausting, but the payoff would be worth it. Around 4 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was Aaron. Aaron, you ready for this? Me born ready. Aaron, good. I've got the decoy package. Meet me at the corner store in 20. I grabbed my backpack, making a show of fumbling with the zipper, and left my bedroom door wide open as I headed downstairs. I heard Mason in the kitchen, his voice carrying through the house as he recounted some exaggerated story to our mom about a girl who got lost on a trip to Spain and had to beg strangers for help. You know, he said, his tone dripping with smug superiority. That's the kind of thing Callie needs to think about. She's not as street smart as she thinks. I felt my jaw tighten, but I forced myself to take a deep breath, letting the anger simmer just beneath the surface. I slammed the front door behind me, letting the sound echo through the house, and set off down the sidewalk. Erin was waiting for me by the newspaper stand outside the corner store, a small, tightly wrapped package clutched in her hand. She handed it over without a word, her eyes sharp, her jaw set. "Everything's in there," she whispered as I slipped the package into my backpack. Passport, emergency cash, a burner phone, and a fake itinerary, just like we planned. I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I didn't deserve a friend like Aaron, someone who would risk this much to help me pull off a stunt this crazy. "Thank you," I whispered, squeezing her hand. "I owe you big time." She smirked, pulling me into a quick, fierce hug. "You'd do the same for me. Now go break his perfect little world." I pulled back, meeting her intense, determined gaze, and felt a renewed sense of purpose settle into my bones. Mason thought he had me cornered, thought he'd broken my spirit, but he had no idea what I was capable of. As I headed back home, I mentally rehearsed my lines, running through every possible reaction, every potential twist. I had to stay sharp, stay one step ahead. When I got back, I found Mason in the living room, casually flipping through channels on the TV, his feet propped up on the coffee table like he owned the place. "Hey," he said, glancing up as I tossed my backpack onto the couch. "Where have you been?" "Nowhere," I muttered, making a show of being distracted, flustered. I let my backpack spill open, the carefully planted contents tumbling onto the carpet. Mason's eyes flicked to the bundle of cash, the emergency passport, the printout of a fake flight itinerary. His jaw tightened, his fingers clenching around the TV remote. "What's all this?" he asked, trying to sound casual, but I caught the slight tremor in his voice. "Nothing," I snapped hurriedly, shoving everything back into my bag. "Just backup plans." "Backup plans," he echoed, his eyes narrowing. I forced myself to meet his gaze, letting a hint of defiance creep into my expression. "In case my actual passport doesn't turn up, I'm not missing this flight." For a moment, we just stared at each other, the air between us crackling with tension. Then Mason forced a laugh, leaning back against the couch cushions. "Wow," he said, shaking his head. "You're really serious about this, huh?" I straightened, slinging my backpack over my shoulder, forcing a shaky, bitter laugh. "You have no idea." I stormed up the stairs, making sure my footsteps pounded against the wooden steps, letting him think I was coming apart at the seams. Back in my room, I tossed my backpack onto my bed and flopped into my desk chair, my heart racing. I took a deep breath, letting the adrenaline wash over me, steadying my shaking hands. Mason had taken the bait. Now all I had to do was sit back and watch him unravel. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. Aaron. Aaron. He took the bait. "Just got a call from his buddy Kyle. They're trying to figure out if your backup passport is real." I let out a breath. I hadn't realized I was holding a wicked grin spreading across my face. "Me perfect. Time for phase 2. Aaron, you sure about this? It's pretty risky." Me, I've never been more sure of anything. I set my phone down and leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes, letting the satisfaction of a perfectly executed plan settle into my bones. Mason thought he was the mastermind, the puppet master, pulling all the strings, but he had no idea he was the one dancing to my tune. I opened my eyes, my gaze settling on the carefully scattered papers, the open travel guides, the crumpled maps spread across my desk. This was my stage, my arena, and I was about to deliver the performance of a lifetime. The morning of my flight dawned cold and gray, the house quiet, the air thick with the kind of tension that clings to your skin. I lay in bed staring at the crack in my ceiling, listening to the steady tick of my alarm clock. I had barely slept, my mind a whirl of plans, contingencies, and last-minute doubts. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was Aaron. "Aaron, you ready for this?" "Me as ready as I'll ever be." "Aaron, meet you out front in 30. I tossed my phone aside and swung my legs over the edge of the bed, my feet hitting the cold floorboards. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was about to come. This was it, the final act. I dressed quickly, pulling on my favorite pair of jeans and a black hoodie, shoving my essentials into my backpack. I paused, my hand hovering over the photo of my family on my dresser. The one from our last Christmas together, where Mason stood front and center, his arm draped around my shoulders, his grin wide and victorious. I flipped the frame face down. As I crept down the stairs, careful to avoid the third step that always creaked, I heard voices drifting from the kitchen. My parents and Mason, their voices low and tense. "I'm just saying," Mason was saying, his tone defensive. "She's not ready for this. You know how she is. Always daydreaming, never thinking things through." "I don't know," Mom replied, her voice laced with worry. "Maybe this is too much for her. Maybe we should talk to her, make her understand that it's okay to stay." I felt a sharp, bitter smile twist my lips. They thought they were protecting me, saving me from myself. They had no idea. I slipped out the front door, the cold morning air biting into my cheeks, and jogged down the driveway to where Erin's old hatchback idled at the curb. She leaned over and popped the passenger door open as I approached. "Get in," she whispered, her eyes sharp, her jaw set. I slid into the seat, tossing my backpack into the back. "You good?" she asked, pulling away from the curb, her eyes flicking to the rearview mirror. "I will be," I replied, forcing my voice to stay steady. We drove in tense silence, the car's engine humming beneath us, the city waking up around us. I watched the familiar streets slip by the corner store where I'd bought my first soda with my own money, the park where I'd learned to ride a bike, the high school where I'd fought so hard to stand out from Mason's shadow. "You're sure about this?" Aaron asked again as we merged onto the freeway. "Positive," I said, tightening my grip on the edge of my seat. "I can't let him win." We pulled into the airport's short-term parking lot, the tires crunching over the damp pavement. I took a deep breath as we stepped out of the car, the cold air stinging my lungs, the sound of jet engines roaring overhead. Aaron grabbed my arm as I reached for my backpack. "Hey," she said, her eyes locking onto mine. "You're going to do great. They don't get to decide your future. You do." I felt a lump form in my throat, the weight of her words hitting me harder than I'd expected. I squeezed her hand, forcing a shaky smile. "Thanks," I whispered, "for everything." We hugged quickly, fiercely, and then I turned and headed for the terminal, my heart pounding, my legs trembling. Inside the airport buzzed with the chaotic energy of early morning travelers, the air thick with the smell of coffee and jet fuel. I checked the time, 6:30 a.m. I had an hour until my flight. I headed for security, clutching my backup passport and fake itinerary, my heart hammering in my chest. This was it, the point of no return. As I reached the security checkpoint, my phone buzzed. I glanced down, my heart skipping a beat. It was a text from Mason. "Mason, I know what you're doing. Don't even think about it." I felt a cold, sharp shock ripple through my veins. So he knew. He must have finally put the pieces together, realized that I wasn't as broken as I'd pretended to be. I shoved my phone back into my pocket, my pulse racing. I handed my passport to the TSA agent, trying to keep my hands from shaking as he scanned it. "You're good to go," he said, handing it back with a polite nod. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding, my legs suddenly weak with relief. As I reached my gate, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Mason. "Mason? You think you've won, but you have no idea what's coming." I felt a flare of anger, a sharp, bitter burn in my chest. He still thought he had the upper hand, still believed he could control my life, my future. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down, to focus. I glanced at the screen above my gate, Rome boarding in 15 minutes. I pulled out my phone and typed a quick final message to Aaron. "Me, I'm at the gate. I'm doing this. Aaron, proud of you. See you on the other side." I pocketed my phone and straightened, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders, a strange, exhilarating sense of freedom. As I stepped onto the plane, the cool, recycled air washing over my face, I felt a rush of pure, unfiltered relief. I had done it. I had outsmarted Mason, outmaneuvered my parents, broken free from the expectations that had held me back for so long. As the plane taxied down the runway, the engines roaring to life beneath me, I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. They had tried to clip my wings to keep me grounded, but I had taken flight anyway. And as the plane lifted off the ground, climbing into the gray morning sky, I felt a strange, overwhelming sense of peace. I was free. Story 2. The sold sign. Like a dagger to the heart, it was stabbed into my front lawn. After a long day of client meetings, I blinked vigorously, thinking that fatigue was the only factor at play. But there it was, nasty and red and white, identifying my house as belonging to someone else. Willow is my name, and I believed I had my life sorted out until 5 minutes ago. For 3 years, I had been establishing my freelance design firm while renting this apartment from my parents. Feeling stable, at last. It was an easy arrangement. I would maintain the space, pay market rent, and ultimately own it, when I had sufficient funds saved for a down payment. With shaky fingers, I reached for my phone and dialed my mother, directly to voicemail. Naturally, "Hi, cousin." I froze at the sickeningly lovely voice. Jordan was standing at my driveway's edge, perfect grin, shining designer purse swinging. Can you guess who recently purchased her first house? I felt sick to my stomach. What are you discussing? I got such a great lot from Uncle Francis and Aunt Juliana. They essentially gave it to me, really? She turned her keys around. My keys on her finger. I'm eager to remodel. There is so much work to be done here. The remainder of her boasting was hardly audible to me. 3 streets distant, my feet took me to my parents' house on their own. In front of me loomed the familiar colonial-style house. The lights from the illegal apartment glowed through its basement windows, their valuable, hidden source of income. Before I could knock on the door, my mother opened it. "I thought you would show up," she replied, taking a step back. "Your dad is at his office." The scent of fresh coffee and treachery filled the home. When I abruptly stormed in, 16 again, begging my case to be ignored, Dad refused to look at me. "How come you didn't notify me when you sold my house?" My voice broke. It was where I resided. Family supports family. Sitting on Dad's desk, Mom said, "Jordan has a lot of promise and wanted a beginning house. She started working at the bank. For the past 3 years, I have been paying my rent. We made a deal." Dad shuffled papers and said that nothing was in writing. France's mother lost her temper. "Let me take care of this." Her face was made of ice when she turned to face me. "You have 30 days to leave. Regarding the timing, Jordan is being quite liberal. Generous." I chuckled because it sounded harsh and alien, as if you were giving, and it gave me hope that I may succeed there. "Willow, don't be too emotional. You will soon be 30. You need to realize that there are no guarantees in life." I gazed at them. "Mom." I really stared. As usual, perfectly cool and coiffed. Dad is a coward, hiding behind his papers. Their renter likely heard everything since the basement door was slightly open. "You're right," I muttered. "There are no guarantees." I sat in my soon-to-be former living room that evening after spending hours packing furiously and ignoring Jordan's calls about paint samples. The city's housing department website was glowing on my laptop. It was easy enough to complete the anonymous complaint form. I paused for a time, considering the repercussions. Then I thought about Jordan's smile, Mom's rejection. Dad didn't say anything. I quickly typed information on the unlawful basement apartment, the unpermitted electrical work, and the other building code infractions I had observed over the years. It buzzed on my phone. Mom texted me. "Jordan is considering sage green paint for the living room. You did consistently use dubious colors." On the complaint form, I clicked submit. An automatic email arrived in a matter of seconds. "Within a day, Inspector Wilson Jones will get in touch with you to talk about your report." Mom texted me again. "Remember to leave the extra keys behind when you depart. For the contractor, Jordan needs them." When I entered my phone number in the contact information area, I grinned for the first time that day. Someone would have to allow the inspector in. Someone who knew just where to look after all. Naturally, I texted back Mom. I wouldn't want to cause my family any hardship. My phone was ringing almost instantly. A numeral in black. I replied, my heart is racing. From the City Housing Department, here is Wilson Jones. I'm calling about an anonymous complaint regarding an illegal rental unit, a deep voice remarked. Unaware that everything was about to change, I crossed the drapes and proceeded to my window to see the lights in my parents' basement flicker on the shadow of their renter. Indeed, I said, I have some information that may be of interest to you. Do you recall your high school art competition victory? As she assisted me in packing my books into cartons, Daisy inquired. That's lovely, your mother just stated, while exaggerating the importance of soccer and Jordan's participation prize. I mumbled as I wrapped a picture frame in bubble wrap comparing participation in junior varsity to third place in a state tournament. Jordan, however, had genuine talent. God, I halted as a recollection struck me like a slap that Christmas when you received self-help books and she received a MacBook. Mom told me anything that year. Do you know Jordan needs the computer in order to apply to colleges? You spend your entire day drawing. The computers in the library are yours to use. Daisy let the packing tape fall. It's screwed up. They're simply handing her your house now. I fixed them to be at home. I was often reminded of its owner. It buzzed on my phone. Jordan texted me again. The tiles in the bathroom are rather old. I believe I'll understand it fully. Last summer, I put the tiles in myself, I said, displaying the message to Daisy. The remodeling took me all of my savings. Fuck them, Daisy said, reaching for her car keys. We're going for a drive, come on, after 20 minutes. We parked on the other side of my parents' house. The automobile of the renter in the basement was gone. On Thursdays, they were constantly working late. Look, I said, indicating the discreet entry that was skillfully hidden. Dad did that himself. No inspections, no permissions. Daisy took out her phone to check the electric meters that were attached to her. Ideal lighting for pictures. These will be a hit with the housing department. What if I'm overstepping? As I watched her document, I inquired. Everything has gone too far. For example, your mother paid Jordan's full college tuition even though she said art school was a waste. Or when they sold this apartment behind your back despite their promise that you could purchase it. Daisy looked across at me. Here they are creating their own karma. My phone rang. This is Miss Willow Wilson Jones, the inspector. Could you confirm the complaint's precise address? I gazed at the home where I had never lived up to expectations. Jordan was crowned princess there. However, I was advised to be realistic, pragmatic, and less theatrical. Yes, I did say it rather plainly. 347. Maple Street is the number. Behind the rhododendrons is the entryway. For 15 years, they have been renting it out. Another recollection came to mind after the call ended. On my 16th birthday, I was thrilled to see Jordan try on the art materials I had been hinting at for months and open my presents first because she was visiting my mother. No expensive materials were ever needed. When I was silent, Mom had mentioned that Jordan was only beginning to explore her creative side. Daisy put her hand on my arm, hand on Talkin. Are you all right? I told them they were going to lose their valuable rental revenue. Unauthorized units can result in penalties of up to $50,000. Good, Daisy firmly responded. Allow them to experience what it's like to lose a dependable item. My parents' driveway was approached by a car. Mom comes back from playing tennis. She didn't wave even though she was staring at us. When you received that massive graphic design contract last year, do you recall what she said? Daisy inquired. Jordan benefits from his work in banking. Apparently, freelancing isn't a legitimate career, which is why I quoted. The inspector texted me and my phone lit up. A site visit is planned for the following week. The identity of the complainant is kept private. They'll recognize me. I said, what the heck? To their beloved Jordan, they sold your house. Can they take anything else from you? Mom vanished inside, and I watched. Very likely preparing further strategies to support Jordan's ideal existence. The lights in the basement flashed on. Exactly on time. Mom once told me something, do you know, start the car, I said. She said that I needed to be tougher and that if I was harsher on myself, I would do better than Jordan. Well, Daisy gave a gloomy smile. She's going to see how powerful you've become. At home, Number Jordan had attached a Pinterest board to my door at the condo. Concepts for my future house. In glittering ink, the header shouted. I took it down, but not before noting her preparations to tear down the garden. I'd planted the herb garden that had nourished me through lean months when clients paid late. Once more, my phone buzzed. Tomorrow, Mom Jordan's designer wants access. Leave by midday. I reflected about the years of illegal rental money, the inspector's pictures, and the ongoing inquiry. I'm going to catch up to them. No issue. I responded to the SMS. Just keep in mind what you used to tell me. There are no guarantees in life. She will soon have more serious issues than my tone, but I could practically hear her laugh at my attitude. These days, anonymous information were highly valued by the housing department, particularly about unlawful flats in affluent areas. As Daisy assisted me in packing the final box, I assured her that karma isn't a bitch. She's only now beginning to pay attention. Jordan said, stroking the freshly painted walls with her manicured fingertips, "These walls are so dingy. Only last month had I done, and this light fixture? So simple. I kept using newspaper to wrap my dishes, counting from 10 backwards. I could get away from her last-minute remodeling consultation the sooner I packed. What the devil is this?" She took a scrapbook of my early years from a shelf. How adorable. All of this ancient things was maintained by you. Write that down. She danced away as I grabbed for it. Turning the pages. Take a peek at these illustrations. When did you think you would become a well-known artist? She chuckled. Thank God you listened to Aunt Juliana's sensible advice. The scrapbook fell out of her grasp, scattering loose papers on the floor. I saw a yellowed envelope with some of its corners slightly charred. I apologize. Jordan chirped, I'm not sorry. Measuring the windows for actual curtains has already distracted me. Not these inexpensive items. I held off on taking the envelope until she had gone into the kitchen. It included a letter written by my late Aunt Sarah. Jordan's mom. Juliana, my dearest. It started. I am aware of your actions regarding Mother's will. How you persuaded Francis to assist with your transformation. I was shocked when my phone rang. Unknown figure. Uncle Reginald is here, Willow. It had been years since I had heard from Mom's brother. Before Aunt Sarah passed away, they had some disagreements. He said, I heard about the condo situation. Isn't history repeating itself? What are you saying? When it came to your grandmother's will, your mother used the same tactic. After Sarah passed away, alter the terms. Made Francis go through everything first. Jordan was not expected to receive any special treatment. Juliana wasn't either. I had trembling hands. How are you aware of this? Because she wrote a letter and Sarah discovered it. Juliana attempted to burn it. It clarifies everything. For years, I have been collecting evidence. Jordan was FaceTiming her designer in the kitchen. The counters must be removed. And that cheesy backsplash. The letter is with me. Silently, I said. It made it through. The line was silent. Then protect it. Your mother's life is going to get interesting soon. Jordan was rearranging my furniture when I hung up. This arrangement is completely incorrect. I'm glad you're going shortly. The real renovations can't start with all your stuff. Right here. The doorbell rang. A courier stood outside with an official-looking envelope addressed to Mom. Wrong address. I'll take it to her. I offered when Jordan reached for it. In any case, I'm late for brunch anyway. She grabbed her fancy luggage. Oh, and the painters are coming tomorrow. Hope you're out by then. Once alone, I inspected the envelope. City of Boston, Housing Department. My hands trembled as I cautiously opened it, pulling out the note. Mandatory inspection. Zoning violation report. Failure to comply will result in hefty fines. My phone pinged with Instagram alerts. Jordan was already uploading images of my new home remodeling adventure, including my room marked as her blank canvas. I photographed the note and sealed it back up. Their case would only be strengthened by proof of manipulation. I saw Iler, my parents' next-door neighbor, on my way to their house, in her garden working. She called, "Oh, Willow." That downstairs renter of theirs eventually moved out yesterday night, which is unfortunate for your unit. I heard that the pipes were making too much noise. I stopped. Really? When a U-Haul was loaded after dark. This morning your mother was really agitated. It has to do with unpaid rent. The time was ideal. An unauthorized vacant apartment would be discovered during the inspection. No tenant should make things more difficult or refuse entry. Before I could knock on the door, Mom opened it. "Now what incorrect address?" I stated as I brought the mail to my home. "Jordan's residence, that is." She tore it open. She read, her face peeling. "This is absurd. A few errors. Really, such as the error of selling my house without informing me. Don't begin. You never gave Willow Jordan the property she deserves." Before I could stop them, the word escaped. Aunt Sarah may not agree. Mom froze. "What are you discussing?" I said softly. "Nothing, only delivering the mail." "Family is family, isn't it?" She was holding the notice behind her as I left her standing in the doorway. I could see my dad feverishly making phone calls through the glass. Uncle Reginald texted me and my phone chimed. "Attorneys are available when you are." That letter serves as our main weapon. One more Instagram alert. Jordan shared a post on achieving her goals and earning good things. I reach inside my pocket and touch the letter. Nightmares are coming to replace dreams. As I left the house where falsehoods had long resided, I muttered. I could hear my mother's voice rising in alarm behind me. "Give the contractor a call right now, Francis. 7 working days." My phone shook as Dad spoke. "We have 7 days to get ready for the inspection." "Unfortunately," I said, viewing Jordan's most recent Instagram post, a toast with champagne in the living room I used to have. "You're telling me this, but why your mom?" "Perhaps you could write a letter of recommendation for us," she thought. During the celebration, I muted Jordan's narrative. "Same to how you supported me when she sold my house. Please, Willow, we could become bankrupt from the fines." "Dad, nothing in life is certain. Mom says it all the time, doesn't she?" Daisy showed up with coffee and a sly smile right after I hung up, all set to do some reconnaissance. Using recording equipment obtained from Daisy's journalistic work, we parked across from my parents' house once more. As planned, Iler was watering her roses. Daisy cried out, "Mrs. O'Brien, do you remember me?" We warmed up at Willow's residence. I became happier. Yes, exactly. That transaction was a terrible business. Were you aware of their efforts to conceal that dwelling in the basement? Those fresh shrubs are hiding the entryway. In her pocket, Daisy's recorder buzzed softly. "Really, I believed that rental apartments need appropriate exits." "Oh, it's totally against the law." I leaned closer. "It has been like way for 15 years. The distinct mailbox, the more cars, and the noise." Behind the fence, they attempted to hide. Each syllable was flawless. The housing department required it exactly. As I watched, Daisy continued to chat. Mom paced behind the drapes in her living room. Text messages buzzed on my phone. "Tonight, Jordan is hosting my first dinner party. Regretfully, you will not be present to see the breathtaking beauty of the location." The inspector called Mom. "Willow, please. We can figure something out. When you're ready, Uncle Reginald the lawyer will have the will papers ready." As I watched my dad feverishly nail boards over the basement windows, I chose to ignore them all. Too late, too little. "I understand." Daisy halted the recording with a whisper. "Do you want to listen?" Before I could respond. A car from the city arrived. Her mother virtually sprinted outside. "Jones Inspector, you weren't anticipated until the next week." "Ma'am, this is a preliminary visit." Wilson made adjustments to his clipboard. "Have you recently seen any strange activity? When renters vacate, anonymous tips tend to increase." Mom's face suddenly turned white. I have no idea what you mean. Really, due to the fact that your neighbor just provided a lengthy statement on your renting history. I was unable to resist. I went over and pretended to be a naive mother. Is everything all right? Her claws dug into my arm as she grasped it. Inform him that there isn't a unit for rent. Mother Romero, tell him. Wilson interjected. Trying to sway witness accounts is a different infraction. Observe. Mom relaxed her hold. What did you do? Willow channeling Jordan's sugary sweetness. I grinned. Nothing, Mother. Merely supporting family. We do that, don't we? Wilson cleared his throat. Next week is still the planned date for the official inspection. He departed, and I advise you to have your attorney present. Mom betrayed me. You're a little ungrateful. Is everything well here? I called out while continuing to record everything on her phone. The view from my garden is really clear. Mom rushed through the glass and entered. I saw her yell at her father, who appeared disoriented and was still clutching his hammer. My phone rang once more. Jordan shared pictures from her dinner party on social media. I'm really fortunate to have parents that support me. Best investment ever. I told Daisy to send me the recording. It might be of interest to the housing department. I sat among boxes in my makeshift abode that evening, observing my mother's frantic calls to me. 20 texts and 10 missed calls. I was drawn to the last one. Everything will be lost. Do you want it that way? I recalled Christmas mornings when I saw Jordan open the most wonderful gifts related to art education and rejection letters that my mother had faked in my name. I pleaded with them not to sell my house, but they remained silent. What was never truly yours can never be lost. I pinged Wilson's email and texted my laptop back. Audio proof of long-term rental infractions was sent to an anonymous tip line. Penalties may be modified as necessary. After sending Uncle Reginald's attorney Mom's frightening SMS, I opened Instagram one final time. Jordan was having a great time at his party. She moved her designer items to new beginnings, pushing away my old furnishings. She said, thankful for family, habol, in her post. I have no idea what I deserve. I dismissed the application through my window after clicking the block button. Finally, waking up, I could see the city lights flashing like karma. It was the final buzzing of my phone. Your mother is discussing selling the house before an inspection, Dad. We can remedy this, please. Nothing needs to be fixed, I answered. Family is helpful. Family. Do you recall I'm just doing like my mother does? After then, I switched off my phone and fell asleep for the first time in a long time. At 8 a.m., the doorbell rang. Sharp, watching the footage from my parents' security camera. The password would never be altered by them. I watched as Mom put on her best social grin and smoothed her hair. Jones Inspector. Mrs. Romero. It wasn't until the surprise inspection that we realized you were here. Wilson had a clear voice. Mandated by law. When we believe there has been evidence manipulation. Behind her, Dad showed up with a coffee cup that was trembling. We were almost done with the basement entryway cover-up. Wilson pointed to the lattice work that was partially installed. Please move aside. I changed to the camera in the basement. The separate electric meter was still there, but the most of the rental's evidence was removed. In addition, they had neglected to clear the water heater's back of years' worth of tenant mail. This is only storage space, sir, Mom demanded. Wilson came down the steps, followed. Mail from 2019 and storage space with the kitchen. In order to justify the illegal electrical work, he took pictures of everything Mr. Romero cared about. Dad's coffee cup fell to the ground with a crash. All the paperwork was done by Juliana. The sound of Francis's mother's voice may have frozen hell. Romero. Wilson. Mrs. turned to face her. It is a major infraction to tamper with electrical systems without a permit. Who does this work? We. Mom glanced at Dad, who abruptly dropped to the ground. Interesting. Dad murmured, I did. Juliana stated that once she altered the will, we required the rental income. What will be altered? Wilson inquired. Dad's lips was squeezed by Mom's hand. Nothing. He is perplexed. It buzzed on my phone. The inheritance paperwork were presented by Uncle Reginald's attorney. Next week is the court date. The time was ideal. Wilson's tone became stern. Romero, we have proof of long-term rental fraud on file, illegal building, and now potential manipulation with inheritance. Jordan's condo payment and legal penalties are not included in the first $50,000 fine. Mom muttered. How about it? The rental income serves as evidence that she has enough money to pay her mortgage. I almost dropped my phone. They have also engaged in mortgage fraud. Wilson wrote angrily, That's the problem of another department. For the time being, you have 24 hours to turn off any unapproved utilities and start the process of returning things to how they were. However, our renter has already given a statement. Wilson interrupted her and showed the camera the rent receipts. I saw Mom fall into the counter of the illegal kitchen. Jordan eventually broke her impeccable position, and my phone rang. Curiosity prompted me to respond. The septic tank is overflowing. She let out a cry. The entire unit had an odor. Isn't this somehow your fault? I grinned. That's how karma is hilarious. Jordan wept for Aunt Juliana. Tonight is my housewarming celebration. Make this right. But Mom didn't answer her phone because she was too busy watching Wilson record every infraction. Wilson held out a bundle of letters and remarked, One more thing. It is illegal to reroute tenant mail on a federal level. The postal inspector will be in touch with you. Dad fell down the steps of the basement. What have you done to us, Juliana? Me Mom's voice erupted wildly. You were helpful. Years and years of silence. You pretended to be innocent while I took care of everything. Dad murmured softly. I should have stopped you. When you sold Willow's apartment and altered Sarah's will. Mom yelled when you stopped talking. Wilson added this exchange to my report as he cleared his throat. After he left, the first find notification should arrive 48 hours later. In the basement, I saw my parents staring at one another. A house of cards was formed out of them. Once more, my phone buzzed. Jordan. The party was called off. It's wrecked my life. Was it you, Mom, Uncle Reginald? Have you not reported us? Juliana received a court summons. It's just getting started. I texted Mom back after sending Uncle Reginald's attorney Wilson's inspection pictures. It's funny that secrets revealed by the camera don't remain hidden forever. For the first time in my life, I saw her read my message. Her eyes were filled with genuine terror. Francis, she muttered. Give the bank a call. We must be aware of our alternatives. Dad only gave a head shake. Juliana, no more repairs, no more plots. I received a notice from Instagram on my phone. Jordan had tweeted a tearful tirade about sabotage and harmful family members. I just used one emoji in my comment. The following text from Mom was urgent. We can put this right. Please, we shall be destroyed by the fines. I reflected on the times Mom dashed my hopes in order to elevate Jordan's The Burnt Letter, demonstrating that none of us had ever known the complete truth, and Dad's tacit cooperation. Karma isn't ruining you, I replied via text. These are your options. After that, I saw on video as Mom eventually started weeping, and Dad went upstairs without offering her any consolation. Retaliation doesn't always require a spectacular display. Sometimes all you need is time and the truth. Our loans might be called in by the banks. My voicemail was broken by Dad's voice. To be eligible without it, we utilize the rental income. Please, Willow. Your mom doesn't eat. We require assistance. After deleting the message, I discovered 3 urgent emails from my mother when I opened my laptop. Tonight is a family gathering. Not negotiable. From Jordan. They're reviewing my mortgage. From my longtime childhood buddy, Zara. Jordan has to be discussed. Zara agreed to meet in the downtown coffee shop, and that was my only response. She was anxiously tearing up a napkin when I got there. Jordan requested me to assist her in listing the property on Airbnb. As she waited for improvements, she blurted out beneath the table, I took a drink of my coffee. Fascinating. Short-term rentals are expressly prohibited by the HOA. I am aware of her desperation. Mentioned that her mortgage was being questioned. Zara took her phone out. Check out her listing. It's live already. The pictures included my furnishings and my old house, which was marketed as a $300 per night luxury retreat. This is something that the HOA board would detest. Sending screenshots to my email is nothing new to me. After what she did to you, Zara responded, "That's why I told you. Sometimes karma needs a little encouragement." It buzzed on my phone. Daisy is calling. I went outside to respond. I was hired in London. She didn't introduce herself. Next month they need me there. The earth swayed a little. My closest companion. Just as everything was collapsing, my support system left. That's fantastic. I succeeded. I apologize for the timing. With everything taking place? No, you ought to leave. Really? I took a deep breath. I'm all right. Zara was texting quickly back inside. Jordan is going crazy. The HOA. Just track her down for posting rental advertisements without permission. An anonymous tip, I asked naively. Incredibly anonymous. She gave a wink. Oh, and in an effort to generate money for legal bills, your mother has been phoning everyone. My phone flashed up with my mother's number just in time. I responded on the speaker. Tomorrow is the deadline for the penalties. She said, speak RA. We don't have $50 or $1,000. We can refinance the house, Willow, please. As though you were remortgaging my future. Zara's eyes widened at my tone, and I saw it. How is Jordan's ideal life going? Mom yelled. This isn't about Jordan. This has to do with family. Family supports family. I used a quotation. When you sold my house, didn't you say that quiet? After that, your father filled the bank in on the rental scam. The will. Everything. We may lose everything. You've already lost me. Silently, I said. The rest is all paperwork. Zara ended the call by showing me Jordan's most recent Instagram story, which was a heartbreaking tirade about familial treachery and financial harassment. Zara added, "She's always been your parents' golden child. What did you not realize when she took credit for your artwork even in school? She said, I helped you, to everyone. Your mother believed she had creative potential because of this." One more puzzle piece fell into place. Mom used to ignore my originality while praising Jordan's for years. A text message from an unidentified number rang on my phone. Marcus, from Legal Aid, is here. I was instructed to get in touch with you regarding disputing the bequest by your Uncle Reginald. I displayed the message to Zara. Do you want to assist me in destroying additional bridges? Regardless, honey, those bridges were decaying. We forwarded evidence for the next hour. Mom's rental scam and Jordan's unlawful rental listings, Dad's unapproved building project. It was like breaking another link with every click. Daisy then gave another call. Your mother just came to my place and sobbed about how you're ruining the family. What were you saying, because she was the one who ruined it initially? That response didn't sit well with her. There were so many alerts on my phone. Jordan? Eviction is a threat from the HOA. Our accounts were frozen by the bank, Mom. Give us a call, Dad. Everything may be explained by us. The court date has been moved up, Uncle Reginald. Prepare yourself. Silencing them all, I turned to face Zara. Do you believe I've gone too far? She displayed Jordan's fabricated accomplishments and stolen moments on social media. They were the first to go too far. All you're doing is guiding them back. Somewhere across town, the rain began to pour. I'm sure my folks were looking at their accounts that were frozen. Jordan had to pay fines to the HOA. She was unable to pay, and their meticulously crafted falsehoods were being exposed. London, I remarked abruptly as Daisy left. Zara gave my hand a squeeze. After that, we'll all watch them fall apart. Karma in action has to be documented. It was the last time my phone lighted up. Once more, the attorney discovered something intriguing in the mortgage applications. When is the best time for you to meet? I reflected on Jordan's outbursts, Mom's tears, and Dad's frantic voicemails. I typed back today. I'm all set now. Mom. Dad and Jordan were clustered on one side of the courtroom steps, which seemed like a stage, while Uncle Reginald's lawyer was on the other spreading paperwork over his briefcase. Marcus said, pointing to the highlighted passages, "The will tampering is evident. To avoid inheritance tax, your mother shifted assets under your father's name, falsified signatures, and changed dates." That is untrue. Mom's words reverberated along the corridor. "Stop this craziness!" Willow Jordan rushed over. Her face was smeared with mascara. "My mortgage was halted by the bank. Everything will be lost for me, as if I had lost my house." I spoke steadily. "The one you simply must have. It wasn't fair to you. You are only a dreamer and an artist. I have a legitimate job." Marcus interrupted, taking out more documents. "A career built on fraud. Rental income that never existed is listed on your mortgage application. Miss Mackenzie, that's federal fraud there." Jordan's flawless exterior broke. "It was fine," Aunt Juliana replied. "She claimed to have paid till then. Up to what point?" I persisted in asking, "until you had destroyed all I had created. The hallway is in order." Courts were about to start inside when a bailiff arrived. With growing worry, the judge went over the documents. Mom repeatedly mouthed entreaties in an attempt to get my attention. At last, the judge said, "Mrs. Romero, these are grave accusations. Illicit rental income, mortgage fraud, and will tampering. It was for the family." Mom got to her feet. My actions were all protective. "Who is being protected?" Uncle Reginald came from the gallery to interrupt. "Sarah, my sister, had a clear will. An equitable division of the properties had to be made." "Did you not modify that Sarah didn't get it?" "Jordan had to." "What did Jordan need?" "I looked at her and was given everything. But I received nothing to take my house. Because you believed she was more deserving. I strengthened you," Mom yelled. "Jordan, everything I did helped you become self-sufficient. While, Jordan, what?" The voice of the judge broke through. "Committed mortgage fraud while being supervised by you." Jordan started crying. "My house cannot be lost. My fans anticipate a series about renovations. You never lived there." "Silently," I said, as if it had never truly been mine. The judge cleared his throat. "In light of the evidence, all assets are being frozen while the inquiry is ongoing. Romero, Mrs. Criminal Defense Attorneys will be necessary for you." At last, Dad said something. "We pay off Jordan's mortgage with the rental revenue." "Without it," Marcus said. "Both properties will be checked for fraud right away." Mom fell back in her seat. "Please, Willow, this is something we can resolve." When Mother misplaced my admission letters to art school, I recalled all the times she had said that. When Mother abruptly sold my house and handed Jordan my education fund. "No, Mother, karma cannot be changed." With her fancy bag flying, Jordan pounced at me. "You spiteful jerk. Everything is damaged by you." Uncle Reginald was on his feet when the bailiff stopped her. "Shall I share Sarah's most recent letter with them, Juliana? The one you attempted to set on fire." Mom became pale. "You're not understanding." "I completely understand," he replied. "Up until it turned like fraud, you played favorites. You're now dealing with the fallout." The magistrate struck his gavel. "Properties are frozen. Assets seized while a criminal investigation is ongoing." Jordan was having a complete breakdown on the steps of the courtroom outside the next hearing in 30 days. She discussed familial treachery in a live webcast to her fans. The bank is requesting the return of their down payment. "Dad," said Holly, "we don't possess it." I reminded him that you had earned unlawful rental money for 15 years. "Where did everything disappear to? Ask your mom," he muttered. "She took care of everything." Mom was by herself. Finally, her flawless image fell apart. I just had Jordan's best interests in mind. I was done. Not for me. She said, "I made you strong. Take a look at how well you're surviving." No, Mother. I was upset with you. There is a distinction. It buzzed on my phone. Daisy is behind me, providing encouragement from London. Uncle Reginald and Marcus were already talking about what to do next. Tomorrow marks the beginning of the criminal probe, he informed his mother. I advise you to get a lawyer. Jordan's cries reverberated through the walls of the courthouse. My supporters had faith in me. I've damaged my brand, Mom yelled after me as I left. You can't abandon us like this, Willow. Observe me. Without looking back, I said, at my car, Uncle Reginald came up with me. You would make Sarah proud. You were always the strong one, she said, robust enough to endure them. I gave a nod, powerful enough to halt them. 2. I got alerts on my phone. I'm getting evicted, Jordan. How could you harm your family in this way? Our financial documents are wanted by the police, Mom. We need your aid to repair this, Dad, so that no one could ever steal anything from me again. I erased them all and drove home to my tiny rental unit. Behind me, Jordan's idyllic existence devolved into a string of frantic social media postings while Mom's painstakingly built dynasty fell apart under the weight of its own falsehoods. Karma doesn't always require assistance. She simply needs an audience sometimes. I was left alone with my boxes and the afternoon light shining through windows that were now officially mine as the moving truck left my new apartment. Uncle Reginald's lawyer had contributed the down payment. Interest plus my portion of the recouped inheritance. Zara's text buzzed across my phone. Switch on the local news. Mom was being escorted in handcuffs out of their home. The caption said, a shocked expression replaced her tennis whites. A local realtor was arrested on many fraud-related offenses. The maximum penalty for the defendant is 15 years. According to the reporter, the allegations include illicit rental income mortgage fraud and will tampering. Zara Jordan's apartment is for sale for less than its market value. I moved to Instagram, where following the controversy, Jordan's well-planned existence had turned into frantic attempts to reinvent herself. She was relocating to live with her father, according to her most recent tweets. Rebuilding from nothing, much less documented karma, is sometimes necessary. The doorbell rang. Uncle Reginald with a present for the house. The ancient art materials of Sarah. Placing a familiar wooden box down, he spoke. I discovered them in Juliana's loft. Everything she took from you was preserved by her. I discovered my old brushes as I opened the box. Mom had handed Jordan the pricey ones. She actually planned everything. Did she not? In order to escape being charged, your father admitted everything. He gave a nod. How Juliana coerced them into using the rental money to support Jordan's lavish lifestyle. Falsified records. My phone sprang to life. Dad is phoning. I responded on the speaker. Silently, he murmured, the house is being seized. Your mother is going through a difficult period. A mortgage fraud investigation is underway against Jordan. I ought to have given up years ago. However, you didn't. I answered. You remained silent while they tore me down. Yes, I simply do. I apologize. For everything, Willow. Daisy texted me again with a picture of her new workplace in London, and I hung up. I'm glad that you finally overcame their control over you, but I miss you. I need your assistance unpacking my art tools, Uncle Reginald. An easel is being set up beside the window. Sarah used to say that you were the true talent. Juliana put a lot of effort on stifling it because of this. Jordan had to be the one who was unique. Because even without their assistance, you were unique. Once more, my phone buzzed. A warning about the news. Jordan's bank was pursuing charges related to fraudulent mortgage applications. At last, her ideal existence had fallen victim to its karmic debt. Was everything resolved by retaliation? Quietly, Uncle Reginald inquired. I put up a new canvas and said no, but the reality did. As he was leaving, I began painting, making something fresh in a place that was really mine. No further assistance with conditions. Family loyalty tests are over. I'm done letting Jordan steal what was rightfully mine. In the backdrop, the nightly news was broadcast. Jordan's influencer career was destroyed by Mom's flawless reputation. Dad's silent obedience was revealed. The weight of their own falsehoods had caused their meticulously crafted facade to collapse. My phone kept flashing. Mom, if you speak for me, the attorneys think I might be able to escape going to jail. My life is over, Jordan, and you are solely to blame. Please simply talk to us, Dad. Instead, I opened my laptop and blocked their numbers. Looking through my design company emails, new projects, new clients, and opportunities unrelated to family responsibilities or unfulfilled goals. I smiled as Zara sent me one last SMS. Jordan is attempting to raise money for legal bills by selling your old furniture. Karma's sense of comedy is peculiar. I surveyed my new area, which was smaller than the condo, but in all respects. My artwork was already covering the walls. Jordan attempted to replicate the sunset and painted my canvas in hues of justice, as I worked making something that would never be removed, despite Mom's criticism that it was unrealistic. The metropolis beyond throbbed with possibilities unrelated to stolen inheritances or family names. Uncle Reginald. My phone flashed up one final time. Sarah would be pleased. The cycle was broken by you. I responded to the SMS. No more family members assisting one another. No, he said, just the truth. Helping truth at last. I returned to my painting and added hues that Jordan would have attempted to claim in the distance and Mom would have detested. Sirens screamed likely as once more aspect of their idyllic existence crumbled. But here with my truth and my work in my own place. Theft was no longer possible. No more love that is conditional. No more phony appreciation. No more letting Jordan get what was rightfully mine. Karma doesn't always make things better, but sometimes she offers you a fresh start and tells you to show them what you're truly capable of. I took up my brush and started to illustrate my own tale.